Um,
when you think about the future, what are you imagining? What's the weirdest and the wildest it could be?
have you read Surface Detail by Ian Banks? Surface Detail is my favorite depiction of oh wow, you have to read this book. It's literally the greatest
I-
science fiction book
I-
possibly
Ian Banks is the man. Yeah,
ever
for
written.
sure,
Wait,
for sure.
so Ian Banks' Surface Detail is, in my opinion, the best future that I've ever read about or heard about in science fiction. Um, Basically, there's the relationship with superintelligence, like artificial superintelligence, is just it's like great. But in the opening scene of Surface Detail, there's this place called the Culture, and the Culture is basically a protopian future. And a protopian future, I think, is like a future that is like obviously it's not utopia, it's not perfect, and like because like striving for utopia, I think feels hopeless and is sort of like maybe not the best terminology to be using. Um, so it's like it's a pretty good place, like
Hmm.
mostly like you know super intelligence and biological beings exist fairly in harmony. There's not too much war. There's like as close to equality as you can get. It's like approximately a good future. Like there's really awesome stuff. It's um and the uh in the opening scene, this girl, she's born as a sex slave outside of the culture, so she's in a society that doesn't adhere to the cultural values. She tries to kill the guy who is her like master, but he kills her. But unbeknownst to her, when she was traveling on a ship through the culture with him one day, a ship put a neural lace in her head, and neural lace is sort of like it's basically a Neuralink,
Hmm.
uh, because life imitates art.
It does indeed.
It does indeed. So she wakes up, and the opening scene is her memory has been uploaded by this neural lace when she's been killed, and now she gets to choose a new body, and this AI is interfacing with her recorded memory in her neural lace, and helping her and being like, "Hello, you're dead, but because you had a neural lace, your memory's uploaded. Do you want to choose a new body, and you're going to be born here in the culture and like start a new life?" Which is just that's like the opening.
Hmm.
It's like so sick.
And the ship is the super intelligence,
All the ships are kind of super
but
intelligences.
they still want to preserve a kind of rich, fulfilling experience for the humans.
Yeah, like they're like friends with the humans. And then there's a bunch of ships that don't want to exist with biological beings, but they just have their own place like way over there.
But they don't. They just do their own thing. They're not necessarily. So it's a pretty. This
It
protopian existence pretty peaceful.
yeah, I mean and then for example, one of the main fights in the book is they're fighting there's these artificial hells um that and people don't think it's ethical to have artificial hell. Like basically when people do crime, they get sent like when they die, their memory gets sent to an artificial hell and they're eternally tortured. And so and then the way that society is deciding whether or not to have the artificial hell is that they're having like a simulated war. So instead of actual blood, people are basically essentially fighting in a video game to choose the outcome of this.
But they're still experiencing the suffering, or in this artificial hell, or no? Can you experience stuff, or
So the artificial hell sucks,
yes?
and a lot of people in the culture want to get rid of the artificial hell.
There's a simulated wars. Are they happening in
So
the
this
artificial hell?
so the so no, the simulated wars are happening outside of the artificial
Ah,
hell
got it.
between the political factions who are so this political faction says we should have simulated hell to deter crime,
Got it.
and this political faction is saying no, simulated hell is unethical, and so instead of like having blowing each other up with nukes, they're having like a giant Fortnite battle
Yes.
to decide this, which to me that's protopia. That's like, okay, we can have war without death. Um, I don't think there should be simulated hells. I think that is definitely one of the ways in which technology could go very, 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 very wrong.
So almost punishing people in the digital space or something like
Yeah,
that.
like torturing people's memories.
Will you be able to save and replay memories in the future?
Yes, I think in the future you will be able to save and replay memories. I mean, this is obviously sounding increasingly like a Black Mirror episode, um, but well, I guess they're pretty good at predicting. Um, but yeah, essentially, if you have a whole brain interface, everything that's encoded in memory, you could upload. You could basically store your memories as a backup and restore the memories. then ultimately you could potentially download them into a new body or into a robot body. The future is going to be weird.
So either as a deterrent, like if you committed a crime, but also just for personal pleasure, if there's some sick, demented humans in this world.
Au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans nos topos. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital.
This is our little device. That thing at the bottom is just to hold the threads in place because they're just like little fine wires. I mean, frankly, to sort of simplify this, what we're, I mean, it's more complicated than this, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. So, and it's, yeah, so our current prototype, version 0.9, has about 1,000 channels. So that's about 100 times better than the next best consumer device that's available. And it's a 23 millimeters by 8 millimeters. It actually fits quite nicely in your skull because your skull is about 10 millimeters thick. So it fits, it goes flush with your skull, it's invisible, and all you can see afterwards is that there's a tiny scar. And if it's under your hair, you can't see it at all. In fact, I could have a Neuralink right now, and you wouldn't know. Maybe I do. So, and it's also got all the things that you would expect to see, the sensors you'd expect to see in a smartwatch or a phone, like notional measurement, temperature, pressure. So there's actually a lot of functions that this device could do.
All of evolution has been survival of the fittest up until now. And at some point, you know, it's kind of, the lines are kind of fuzzy, but in the recent past, or maybe even just right now, we're getting to this point where we can choose intelligent design.
Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design. And the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Google cloud, they will be the driving forces of evolution.
Like, we probably since like the integration of the iPhone, like we are becoming cyborgs. Like, our brains are fundamentally changed. Everyone who grew up with electronics, we are fundamentally different from Homo sapiens. I call us Homo techno. I think we have evolved into Homo techno, which is like essentially a new species. Like, if you look at the way, if you took an MRI of my brain and you took an MRI of like a medieval brain, I think it would be very different the way that it has evolved.
Do you think when historians look back at this time, they'll see like this was a fundamental shift in what a human being is?
I think I do not think we are still Homo sapiens. I believe we are Homo techno, and I think we have evolved, and I think right now the way we are evolving, we can choose how we do that. And I think we are being very reckless about how we're doing that. Like, we're just having social media, but I think this idea that like this is a time to choose intelligent design should be taken very seriously. It, like, now is the moment to reprogram the human computer.
Some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem.
You know, it's like if you go blind, your visual cortex will get taken over with other functions. We can choose our own evolution. We can change the way our brains work. And so we actually have a huge responsibility to do that. And I think, I'm not sure who should be responsible for that, but there's definitely not adequate education. We're being inundated with all this technology that is fundamentally changing the physical structure of our brains, and we are not adequately responding to that to choose how we want to evolve. And we could evolve, we could be really whatever we want. And I think this is a really important time. And I think if we choose correctly and we choose wisely, consciousness could exist for a very long time, and integration with AI could be extremely positive. And I don't think enough people are focusing on this specific situation.
In the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy. Not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?